Welcome back to Super Bowl week here at Beyond the Score podcast. As usual, your co-host Harry's over here, and we have a very, very special guest this evening. Josh, can we see Josh? And this beautiful princess, Kenzie. Hi, Kenzie. You want to say hi to anybody who's watching today?
You want to say hi to anyone? You want to say hi to Mommy or Savannah?
That's okay. Kenzie will say hi another time. If she's ready, she can say hi whenever she wants, actually, because she is the star of the show. And I am so glad that she is on this episode, a special episode. We are going to be talking about the Super Bowl, and we have a super guest who is joining us today. There she goes. She's ready to talk whenever she wants, and that's how the way it's going to be today. So let's keep rolling. And Kenzie, whenever you're ready to chime in with whatever you want, you go right ahead, okay? But we have a very, very special week, like I said, for the third time now. It's Super Bowl, and we got the Chiefs and we got the Eagles. Unfortunately, for any Giants fans watching, it's not a Super Bowl. We're going to be fun and, excited to watch, but it's going to be another Super Bowl that we have to experience. So here it is, Eagles versus Chiefs. Chiefs opened up as -1.5 favorites, but I don't think that's going to necessarily matter. Josh, what do you think? How do we feel about this game? What is going to happen? I know we talked about a lot of it last week, but here it is, Sunday Super Bowl, 6:30.
Yeah, Sunday Super Bowl. Over here, we know that the Chiefs have won 2 in a row, and that they're no, you're okay, baby. The Chiefs have won 2 in a row. They've taken a path to the Super Bowl where a lot of people think that they weren't tested very much, but you know what? They won the games, and I think that's exactly what they're gonna do again.
Wise words from the great Kenzie Weil. That sounded perfect. I agree. I mean, well, I don't agree with a lot. I agree with some of this stuff. I think it's going to be a great game. I personally think the Eagles are going to take this one. I gave you guys my prediction last week, 28-27 score. This is going to be one of those games where it could come down to the last possession of the game like it did 2 years ago. It could be a game, depending on how well Saquon Barkley plays, that the Eagles could take this one pretty easily. I can see it going either ways. I don't see this being a game where the Chiefs blow out the Eagles. I think the Eagles are too good and too well built of a team to get blown out by really anybody. And where the Chiefs are now, obviously being offensively, they're not nearly as efficient as they were 2 years ago. This is a different Eagles team. But for them, for the Chiefs, it's actually a different Eagles team and it's a different Chiefs team. But not as in a good way for the Chiefs as it is for the Eagles. For the Chiefs, I believe what's going to be really important for them to have really any shot at keeping this relatively competitive is getting Xavier Worthy right off the bat, having him have some big plays. They're going to need to get him going right off the bat. And so we'll see whether or not they're going to incorporate him from the start, or they're going to have to start getting a little creative down the line, maybe running some trick plays to get him involved. It's really all going to depend on how the Eagles are able to defend against this Chiefs offense. What are your thoughts, At?
Yeah, I mean, I think if the Eagles were to win, you're going to notice the that's a stapler, baby.
How do we do staples?
If the Chiefs are to win, if the Eagles are to win, it's going to be because the absence of Rashee Rice. I think that they notice. I think that they notice that there's not, like, the guy that he has the most chemistry with is not with the team anymore right now until next year. So it's kind of interesting to see how the passing game works. Like you said, Xavier Worthy is going to be a big part of the game. And I think that the Eagles are going to Saquon Barkley. Give me 1 second, baby. And I think that Saquon Barkley's numbers are going to look good regardless. But I think that it's going to be about him finding the end zone. And I think that you're going to look at if he can get in multiple times. I think the Eagles win the game. But I think that they do a good job in the red zone, forcing their hand to make other people earn it.
Well, good thing for the Eagles is that they have multiple weapons other than Saquon Barkley, and if they feel like it's going to be a struggle getting him into the end zone, potentially once, potentially twice, they have other options like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, And I think we'll see a lot of Dallas Goedert in this game as well. He's been used a lot more of recently, especially after his injury when he came back. You just saw how fluent the Eagles' offense became. I think, this is going to be a good game regardless of the sense. I have it as a one-score game. I think you can never rule out Patrick Mahomes. And one thing that we have to say here is that he's in that GOAT category, right, next to Tom Brady. I think he entered that when he won last Super Bowl. And now just entering another Super Bowl, it's miraculous. You can never rule him out. So I will never be surprised if the Chiefs come out and win this game, because how could you be, right? It's like for us and even the generation before us when they were watching Tom Brady play, you can never really rule him out. After a certain level, you're just like, yeah, he's there. And I mean, really, even up until 6 and 7 Super Bowl, people were still like, it's probably going to be the Chiefs, or, he's not going to be able to get this one and that one, whatever it is. And he won. And I think people have learned their lesson with Tom Brady, and now they're a little bit more cautious with Patty Mahomes here because of how incredible of a player and how gifted he is to be able to make something out of nothing. And I think the Eagles have to play their best brand of football that they played all season long, because this is a Super Bowl. Everyone's got to be at their best, their peak. I know that they're missing a couple of their defensive pieces that are important, but nobody's fully healthy. Just like you said, the Chiefs don't have Rashee Rice, even though I don't think that's nearly as important, because they kind of lost him early in the season and they kind of knew what they had. And now they obviously got Hollywood Brown back, even though he's not, really in the system yet and learned the system fully yet. He's still going to be a threat for that Chiefs offense. So see him, and, we haven't even said his name, but Travis Kelce, whether or not he's going to have a big game or not, that his presence on the field is going to be very crucial, because there's going to be scenarios where he might get double coverage and, you're not seeing him being involved, but that just means that somebody else on that Chiefs offense is involved because of how important Travis Kelce is. And so even if he doesn't have a game where he's got 8 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown, maybe he has 2 catches for 22 yards, you're going to have to look at everything. It's like reading a book between the lines, right? And so you have to kind of see what happens with Travis Kelce here too. I think all in all, though, it's going to be a great game, and we're going to have a really fun Super Bowl here. I wanted to ask you, what are your plans to watch the game? What are you doing?
Still to be determined. I did decide that this time around I will watch it, but I still think that a couple things need to be decided, because we're gonna get some snow, so I don't want to make too big plans and then have to cancel. So it'll be a last minute thing. But what about you? What are you doing?
Well, just for all our viewers to know that Josh had been on a Super Bowl boycott over the last couple of years, I believe, right? Not really caring to watch it, which
Well,
can't
last
really.
year I was a little busy.
Last year you were busy welcoming a child, which is totally understandable. But so there are some crazies out there, and maybe you don't call them crazies, or you call them crazy, whatever you want to call them. That, listen, Kenzie was not the only baby born in the month of February, or at least around the Super Bowl time. And so you probably had some people and fathers and any parents really who are football fans who were like, get me a TV right now in front of my room. I need a 60-inch. I don't care if I'm in the middle of the delivery. I need to see what is happening, because there are some crazy football fans out there. But that's not, I know how much of a football fan you are and how much of a Saints fan you are. I'm not crushing that. I don't blame you for having a little bit more
totally.
support for your family during a time like this, because, of course, when you have a game around in the background, it takes your mind someplace else for the time being, and
Totally.
you obviously want to
I
have
did
your mind
watch
with
it.
your family. So listen, this Super Bowl, it's no babies are around, so we got TVs and we'll be able to watch them. You have snow, I have sun, so I'll be able to at least watch it with a nice
Humble
comfortable
flex.
T-shirt on and some shorts on, while you're bundled up in a nice big jacket and pants
flex.
on, huh?
Humble flex. But then I'll hit you up in May and June when you're rained in every day, and I'm getting the 70s, 80s that you're so accustomed to.
Yeah, well, you know what? Regardless of the fact is, South Florida is truly a special place. I love it down here. And yes, we do get some rain, and sometimes it's blistering heat out there, and you're like, oh my goodness, I do not want to leave my place. I would take that over the 6 inches of snow that comes through the months of end of November to the beginning of March. No thanks. See you later, even though I will be up in the next few days for a special birthday, but hopefully the snow doesn't follow, because that would really stink. But regardless, let's get back into things.
I would find that hysterical if the snow followed you to Florida because you came up for Savannah, whose birthday's in February, by the way.
Well. The thing is, it is snowing now in Florida. Maybe not by me, but it is snowing in Florida. So is it a crazy stretch for it to come down to South Florida? Of course it is. Is it impossible? At this point, you can't put anything behind me at this point because the truth is when I see snow coming down to Florida, I'm like, I don't even know how to process this. I know it's 4 hours away from me, but it's close enough where I kind of feel it when I go outside, right? It was like 60 degrees out here. It was
If it's
cold.
a drivable distance, then it's really I feel you if it's a drivable
Yeah,
distance.
if I
but
could
kinda
drive
just
and I
wanted
could see
to
snow, like if I could drive and I'm in sunshine weather, and then I could drive and I'm just in snow now, whoa, that is not okay. It can't be involved in that. Just not okay.
Yeah.
And that's also gonna be something big for the Eagles too. They're coming from the snow, and they're coming down south to New Orleans to play a Super Bowl game. Same thing with the Chiefs, obviously snow. So for them, there will be no snow for this Super Bowl. Good for them. I prefer it that way. Even though some people
Yeah,
say,
I mean,
"Oh,
especially
during the playoffs they love it when there's snow on the field and it makes real football out there." I'm like, really?
well, you're
Is
not getting
that
snow in the Superdome.
yeah, right? You're not getting snow in the Superdome, and even if you did, um, nothing to say. Even if you did, nothing to say.
No, but no, but I wanted to make a point too where I think the Chiefs are gonna look at the way the Rams played the Eagles as a real opportunity to how they could play to make it a successful game plan. I think that when you look at time of possession, it was almost even, and it felt like the Rams were in that game until the very end. They made a couple big mistakes, but besides that, I think that you look at it, they executed on third down. They had more yards than the Eagles, so I think if the Chiefs control the ball and they make the Eagles have some three and outs, which it's hard to do because they're willing to go for it on fourth down on your side of the field. So if you could get them to punt a couple times, it's really important. But I'm not gonna say the Eagles aren't lethal. These are two great football teams, and I honestly think that revenge being on the Eagles' mind is something that a lot of people are gonna side with the Eagles for, but I'm still gonna go with the guys who've done it, the guys who've seen it all the way through.
Revenge is BS because everyone's been on a revenge tour in the AFC. It feels like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson trying to get through
That's so
Patrick
true.
Mahomes, and nothing has happened so far. So the revenge argument goes right out the window. I'm not even.
That's
I
so
don't even. I
funny.
didn't
I
even
didn't
want to
think of
bring
that.
that up because revenge. It's like okay, yeah, some of these players who are like, yeah, this is our opportunity, whatever. Good for them. They have a little bit of extra juice maybe for them, but you got Patrick Mahomes on the other side here. This is not just some average team that somehow made it to the Super Bowl and is now, unfortunately going to play the Philadelphia Eagles. We got the Chiefs and the Eagles, and regardless of what people think about how the Chiefs season has gone, the truth is they were the one seed and they played super well. They only lost one game this season. And revenge means absolutely nothing when you're going against the guy that's literally put so many players in their coffins because they just
Yeah,
can't seem to
true.
get through that hump of beating KC. So I think it's going to be a great game. The
Yeah.
Eagles struggled early on in the playoffs too against the Packers. They had a really rough game offensively. Honestly, I think the Packers shot themselves in the foot in that game. The Rams
Yeah.
game was, I mean, the Rams were winning with 2 minutes left in the game, and then the Eagles
Mhm.
come down and boop. You blame Matthew Stafford. You want to blame whatever you want to blame on the Rams, but that game was definitely a winnable game for the Rams. And then you got to the Commanders game, and the Commanders seemed like they kind of left their all in Detroit, but they obviously still
Yeah.
played a really good game against the Eagles. It just wasn't enough. The Eagles were just rocking
Yeah.
and rolling that game. Saquon Barkley was on a mission at that point, and
They were ready.
the truth is that mission, if he leads that into the Super Bowl, man, I think not only if the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I think the Super Bowl MVP will be Saquon Barkley.
Oh yeah. And I think that the fact that Saquon Barkley is there, it's no coincidence that it took this team to another level. And I think that you look in that same Rams game, the Eagles averaged 8.4 yards per carry. Of course, that big 76 or 78-yard touchdown he had definitely jolts that up. But for the game for if they try to model around that game plan, knowing their rushing defense can contain that, and knowing they'll excuse me that they'll take care of the ball, I think that they're in for a good game, and it'll be close. I'm not saying anyone's gonna blow anyone out, but I still I keep saying it, and I understand Saquon's a great player, Jalen Hurts is a great player, but I feel like just Kansas City is ready, and this has the feel of an overtime game to me that everyone's like, "Oh, of course the Chiefs won the coin toss and went down and scored a touchdown. The Eagles didn't even have a chance." And
I think
I'm
that
not.
rule kind of sucks, to be honest with you.
It
But
does.
if it happens, it happens. That's the way the football is played now, right? And there's nothing you could
Mhm.
complain about. I'm not going to sit here and complain, and nobody I feel like should complain about how it ends. I mean, yes, people will complain, but that's the way football is. Until Roger Goodell and the NFL agree to make a change, and the rules are the rules.
That rhymed.
Overtime would be great because it's extra football in the Super Bowl. Who wouldn't love that? I mean, some people say, "Oh no, they want a regulation end," but extra football in the Super Bowl, can't argue with that. The way I want to wrap this up, though, is I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
Jason Kelsey. You think he's
Mhm.
sitting there like, damn, I should have stuck around for one more year?
No, I don't think that he. I think he's got so much going for him, and I think that he in order to leave the game when you play at such a high level, you have to have such peace with yourself. And when there are rumors throughout the year of players mulling their return, they're usually just having a tough time separating from the game. Whereas I haven't really heard that from him. It seems like he's moved on nicely to a life of podcasting, a life of being on ESPN, and just being an enjoyable personality for everyone. So I think that he's really soaking it up. And if he's not in it, I think he's still happy that it's his brother versus his old team. So he can congratulate whoever wins and be happy at the end of the year.
$100 million to just podcasts. Not a
We
bad
got
gig if you
next.
ask me. Listen, I
We got
can't
next.
I can't wait for them to come knocking on our doors and say, "Here's $100 million, come podcast, and here's our money and endorsements and all that stuff." It's gonna happen one day. So
Oh
listen, you
yeah.
guys can give it to the Kelsey brothers, but over here we're rocking and rolling. So let's not forget about Beyond the Score podcast. Okay, save a couple million
Hmm.
for us over here. We got
Yeah.
podcast junkies over here doing some magical things for us. So we got to make sure that everyone's
Absolutely.
eating over here. But I like the way that you said that he's at peace with himself. He
Hmm.
understands that what this wasn't his time, and he's retired, and now he could just watch and enjoy the game from a nice suite, right? Maybe rocking even a Chiefs jersey because his brother's on the other side. So it'll be
I like
fun
to
to see,
say.
though. It'll be fun to see how this ends up determining. But 6:30 Sunday Super Bowl. It's going to be a fun one. Chiefs Eagles. We'll see you guys next week though with
Man,
the recap of the game though, so that'll be a lot of fun.
that sucks for the people out west. The 3:30 Super Bowl. That sucks.
Listen, it's Sunday's a holiday anyways for them. I guess it really doesn't matter. For I guess some people out west,
Fair.
they're gonna be like, all right, so it starts at 3:30 for us, ends around 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then they can go out and celebrate and drink and do whatever they want. So for some people it might actually be a good thing. Some people maybe not, but we're excited to watch it nonetheless, whether it's
Why?
from the East
Why aren't
Coast or
they
the West
smiling?
Coast.
If I'm in the Super
Um,
Bowl, I'd be smiling bigger than I've ever smiled in my life. Why
why
aren't they
aren't they
smiling?
smiling? I guess it's unfinished business. It's the best way to put it. It's a little bit of
Touche.
unfinished business, and then they could start smiling when they're in Disney World. We're going to Disney World, whatever it is, whatever they
Exactly.
say when they win the Super Bowl. But let's move on. We do have a fan question from none other than Matt. Ben, can you do us the honors and let us know what his amazing question is? I'm certain it's an amazing question.
I would be more than happy to do the honors of telling you what this fan question is today. I'll put myself on the screen for you as well.
We got to. Everybody's got to see Ben. I mean, if you're not on screen every single episode, something is wrong.
What's up,
For sure.
everybody?
There we go.
All right, so the fan question for today. Oh, actually, you know what? Let me give you a little zoom in. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we
Hey
go.
yo.
So the fan question is from our dearest Matt. We love hearing from Matt. Matt says, "Do you think players that ask to be traded disrespect the organization and or the fan base?" Personally, I think it is. For example, Miles Garrett should not have had have a huge deal if he didn't believe Cleveland was a winning team.
Great question, Josh. You want
Yeah, it is
to
a good
rock and
question.
roll start, and then
Yeah, for sure.
I'll chime in.
For sure. So I think this is a case by case thing where it's disrespect because first I want to touch on if he shouldn't have signed a huge deal. If you're drafted by an organization and it's the only thing you know and they're offering you all this money, it's kind of all right, maybe we're trying to build something. And when that doesn't come to fruition, when Deshaun Watson doesn't work out, when he, the best quarterback that he's probably played with is Jameis Winston, which for an all league, all world player like him, kind of probably leaves something to be desired because he's tackling all these guys and he's like, damn, if I could play with you, we'd be nice. He probably says that when he's laying on top of them. But I think there are very disrespectful ways to do it. Like I definitely think that the Heat disrespected Jimmy Butler first, but I do think that there are certain things that he's doing that are just the same. So it's kind of it, and I don't really think the fan base is um I don't really I think that the way you go about it, the fan base is really they're gonna be hurt no matter what if you're traded. So I don't think it's disrespect. I just think it's I guess you could say inconsiderate because these people buy your jersey, these people love you, these people stay after games to meet you or go to meet and greets and you're not really considerate of what they want, but at the same time you not it's not necessarily fair to hold the player to that standard when he's busted his ass every week for I don't even know exactly how many years he's been in the league, but he's someone that I feel like he handled it very professionally. I'm sure he spoke with them before he put it on social media and he let everyone else know so the fans wouldn't be surprised because I think if the fans are surprised, I think that that's when chaos ensues. When you let the people know, they can start to realize, all right, maybe going into this year, it might not be our year, but if Miles Garrett doesn't want to be here, that sucks. But if we can trade him before he's a free agent, then at least we can get some pieces to build a better team. I know that when he was here, he was a dog to watch, and hopefully he doesn't go to one of our rivals. But I think that him signing that deal was just I think that that's generally what you do when you're playing well, you fit in on a team nicely and their defense was pretty good for a couple of the years, but the offense just hasn't gotten anything moving and that has to be frustrating and to how much can one person take? But if
So
you handle it if you handle it a certain way, it's okay. But if you if you make drama, if you throw people under the bus, if it drags out, if it affects the play on the court, the field, the whatever, I think that that's when it
So I
messes
think
up.
this is very case by case. You have to look at what players asking for a trade because it's unfair to be able to pinpoint. Like we can sit here and look at players and say, some of these guys haven't done anything for their teams, or they've done great things for their teams, but there's no reason for them to ask for a trade out of the blue. Now, Miles Garrett, who's played 8 years all for the Cleveland Browns, who's very heavily involved in the Cleveland community, actually owns a minority share of the Cavs.
Oh, that's
Um,
dope.
with a couple of years left on this extension, of course, like you said, what is he supposed to do when he's handed that offer? He's going to take it, right? He wants to stay in Cleveland. He wants to play there. But there's a point in time, it's usually during the offseason of reflection for these players, where they're able to sit down and say, where am I at in my career, and where can I expect to be over the next 5 years, right? I think what Miles Garrett has done is he's looked and he's obviously the Browns not making the playoffs this season, has been able to look over his career so far and his career where he expects it to be and says, I don't envision winning a Super Bowl here in the city of Cleveland while I'm still playing here. And I think the pinpoint, and if we really want to make a pinpoint on what the real cause of this was when the Cleveland Browns decided to give Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed $230+ million contract.
Uninsured too.
And that alone set back the franchise how many years, right? Where the Cleveland Browns started,
Mhm.
Okay, they were getting there. They had Baker Mayfield, who they drafted in 2019, who we could say who was their best quarterback? Was it Jameis Winston or maybe was it, Baker Mayfield? Baker's obviously playing better now than he was then, but you have to really look at it from an organizational standpoint too, right? You go see what Baker's doing in Tampa, you're like, all right, so he wasn't a bad quarterback. He was actually a very good quarterback. We just couldn't figure out how to get the best out of him. And yes, the
Yeah.
defense has been great for a couple of years because of me. And now we had a struggle season, even though it wasn't because of me, because I had a great year. I have a ton of value. I can go be a contender on a Super Bowl contending team. I could actually bring value to a team, not be,
Yeah.
35, 36 years old and now being traded with a year left on my deal or signing a 1-year deal and, getting 60% of the snaps and trying to be as important as possible for that organization when you're only 36. Miles Garrett is how old? 29 years old. He's still got 4-5 years of really great football left in him at his position. He wants to be an impactful player. And I typically would side with the organization and say, if you're requesting a trade, listen, the team doesn't have to abide by it, right? They might have a conversation. This is one of those scenarios where they might be able to figure it out during this offseason, the Browns and Myles Garrett. Because I think Myles Garrett truly wanted to win in Cleveland. I think that's what he really wanted to do, and I think he just had this vision, recently that this wasn't going to happen because the organization has been making really poor decisions. But, especially being such big fans of the NBA, where we see these players turn over from franchise to franchise left and right, and it doesn't make any sense. You're like, why can't you just stick with one team and try to build something there instead of hopping from team to team, trying to win with other championship contenders and players like that? And we could even discuss this whole Jimmy Butler scenario with how Pat Riley has been, right? And kind of now start feeling bad for the players and almost wanting to side with them a little bit more in these scenarios. But I think it's very case by case. And any sport and any single player that asks for a trade, from the team that they're currently on with whatever amount of years is left on the contract, the truth is, like I said, team doesn't have to oblige by it. It probably would be in their best interest to figure something out, though, because if the player's asking for it, it's obviously out there and they want to try to figure this out and either come to an agreement to stay or, let's do this cordially and find you a trade partner that makes sense for everybody, right? And you could automatically rule out 3 teams. Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Baltimore will not be receiving Myles Garrett because they would never trade him to a division rival. You could expect him probably being shipped off to an NFC team. And I know that one team that I saw that was floating around there, and I would be disgusted if he was on this team, the Eagles. Right? It's like, how? If he goes to the Eagles, I might as well just forfeit watching football as a Giants fan.
Are they a little busy right now?
Right, but you know what it is? I guess as a proactive team, you always think about opportunities, and that's what a good GM does. And I will have to say this as a Giants fan, it hurts, but Howie Roseman's a phenomenal front office executive, and he's thinking about every single opportunity that's out there. Of course, he's not out there playing the Super Bowl, right? So for him, he's like, I still got to work. I still got to figure out things. In the middle, what are we doing with our current contracts? Who's going to be available? Myles Garrett? Oh, we might be interested knocking on the Browns' door, making something happen over there. But, I don't think Myles Garrett's disrespectful. I actually think he's a great player, and I think great person other than player. He's a great player. We all know that from the stats. But he's a great person. I think he would love to win in Cleveland. I think if they didn't mess up as many times as they did, he'd still want to stay in Cleveland. I mean, he just became a minority owner of the Cavs, over the last 12 months. So he obviously is involved in this community. He goes to Cavs games. I see him at Cavs games all the time, right? So for the Browns, it's like, all right, well, if we are going to figure this out, we obviously have to make some other moves around him to make him enticed to want to stay. Maybe get rid of Deshaun Watson, cut the tab, and just say, you know what, it is what it is, and go find yourself another quarterback that could at least make you competitive in a division, right? And we haven't even talked about this. Look at the division that they're in. The AFC North. That division alone, I mean, what is Myles Garrett going to do? He knows his team can't even be better than third place in that division. They're a last place team. So, Matt, I think it's a great question because it's a very case-by-case thing. But the way we have to look at it is what players asking for this trade and what are the reasons they're asking for this trade and what could we possibly think. So I think Myles Garrett gets the break, and I hope whatever happens, it works out in best interest for Myles Garrett. I hope the Giants might be interested, but considering that we have so many pass rushers and, defensive ends and, Kayvon and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence, there's no room for him. But if there was room for him, I would love him to be a New York Giant.
It would be a cool
trade Kayvon at this point for him. I wouldn't mind that, honestly.
It would be a cool situation if he got traded for a quarterback and then Cleveland could draft Abdul Carter in the draft. That'd be a cool passing
segue.
guard.
Yeah, like a segue from one to another. I mean,
yeah,
sure, but he's not going to obviously replicate. I mean, maybe he does, but we can expect he's probably not going to replicate Myles Garrett's numbers his rookie season.
Oh yeah,
and it depends on what type of quarterback they're going to get in return. If you're talking about Kirk Cousins or Derek Carr, I'm sorry, but those guys aren't going to probably get the job done. But if you're talking about maybe someone a little bit better, maybe the Rams are we're done with Matthew Stafford. Maybe something like that gets the Browns a little interested. Who knows? It would be really interesting, right? Aaron Donald, now you go from Aaron Donald, you wait a couple of years, and now you get Myles Garrett. That would be quite interesting. And then the Rams can figure out their quarterback situation. But great question, Matt. Thank you so much. Josh, did you want anything else to wrap up with that before we get to our next thing that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, I really just think that one quote from Myles Garrett says the kind of person that the kind of player, kind of person he is, that he said it's never been about the Hall of Fame for me. It's not about money or records. It's you're remembered for winning. And this is a player who 3-14 this last season, and he's been losing since he came in the league. His first year they were 0-16. So I think that that's something that's it's kind of crazy to think about that he started off 0-16. 8 years later, they're 3-14. So give this guy a break, Matt. I think it's okay, but there are plenty of guys that we could bash on together for doing it the wrong way.
There is a good chance the Cleveland Brown organization is cursed, and it has nothing to do with Myles Garrett, so it's unfortunate. But like I said,
Jay Cluck.
we have Jay Cluck. I know you're a big Cleveland guy. Sorry to see it, but there aren't many fans that upset, considering you're not a Dallas Mavericks fan. And that's going to get right into our next topic. We're going to be talking about the NBA trade deadline and some of the major moves that have just happened. And there was one that just happened that has blown the whole entire, not only NBA world into, but you see all these other athletes commenting on this because this trade was, in fact, the biggest trade in NBA history. And it involved the Dallas Mavericks sending their franchise cornerstone player of the age of 25 to the Los Angeles Lakers, Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. And I know Ben was, we were talking about it a little bit before too. Ben heard about the move, and for Ben, I think I could say this, for someone who's not huge into sports worlds, you hearing about this and seeing how big it is just goes to show you that everyone sees the type of move that this is. What do you think, Ben? I mean, quickly.
No, yeah, I couldn't agree. I mean, it was something that, and again, I know a little bit about sports. I'm in touch with basketball. I do enjoy basketball, probably my favorite to watch. But I saw Luka. He was on the Mavericks for a while, right? I mean, that he was with the team. So I thought that was his team, and I saw a couple of things. He made a really nice post to the Mavs fans and all that stuff. But when I saw that, I didn't think it was real. I saw a bunch of videos of him next to LeBron with a Lakers jersey. I was like, I've never seen that. That's not real. And then everyone,
it looks wrong.
Yeah, what's going on? And I guess I was like, holy shit, it's happening, LeBron and Luka. And then it got me into thinking, I'm like, oh, maybe that's his replacement and things like that and all that stuff. So I couldn't agree more, Harry, that this is something that exactly someone that is not fully engulfed in this every day. I saw this and I was like, this is some big news. This is some big stuff that just happened.
Understatement for sure. I mean, this shattered so many franchises and players from, honestly, their realities, right? Because we saw so many players who are like, oh my God, like now I could be traded, right? Franchise players who are like, where do I stand now, right? If Luka Doncic, at the age of 25, who just took the Dallas Mavericks to the finals last season, is getting traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, all bets are off at this point.
Insane.
And so, it goes back to even Matt's question, right? What is the organization really doing here? That really makes sense, because at the end of the day, the organizations work for us, the fans. We're the ones who support these endeavors, these sports. And so when they make a move like that, we've seen the protests in Dallas in front of the stadium, how crazy it's been. These fans are like, they still can't even absorb this. They're still not even sure how this is even happening. And for this to happen to their organization, where Luka Doncic, now their franchise player at the age of 25 years old, is being shipped off to none other than the Los Angeles Lakers to team up with LeBron James, it's like, what are we doing? Now, good thing for the Dallas Mavericks, and I did say this to Ben too, they got Anthony Davis in return, and there's no return that can equate to making sense here. But I think for the year of 2025, the Dallas Mavericks have a better shot at winning a championship this season. Now, this is not something that's better for the organization in the short term or the long term. I'm not saying the Mavericks are going to go win a championship just because they have Kyrie and AD, but AD has been playing the best basketball of his career this season, and I think that's going to really help in Dallas, where he has Kyrie and he doesn't even have to worry about playing the center. They have Daniel Gafford. They have Derek Lively. So he's going to be playing his true position of power forward, and I think he's going to thrive, and I think this makes Dallas a better team right now, because they were kind of like a borderline team, And then all of a sudden, Luka hasn't been playing the last 3 weeks, so they've been like treading water here in that Western Conference. And now this move gets them a player who, listen, Anthony Davis is made out of glass. Everyone says it, but Luka is obviously having his fair share of injuries right now in year 7. So where does it stand? This is a move for the Lakers that sets them ready to go for the next 10 years, 15 years potentially with a move like this. But it also kind of is a shock for the LeBron scenario. And I want you to kind of delve in on this as well. So I'm going to quickly wrap up and then we can get to some of these other major moves that have happened recently. But I think for the short term, like, I don't even want to say short term. I'm talking about for the 2025 season, Dallas has a better chance to make a longer run in the playoffs. But I think there's no reality where this makes sense for the Mavericks to make this trade happen.
Well, I think that both teams are another move away from really being ready to compete this year. But I agree with you with the stance on the Lakers being behind the Mavericks for this year. But they need another distributor, guard, wing, whatever, just because Kyrie can distribute, Kyrie can score, but he needs someone else up there with him. And Anthony Davis, I feel like he's kind of not getting enough respect in the media on how good of a player he really is. And the fact that everyone says he's made of glass, I've said it too. But the fact of the matter is, with load management, he's probably missing just as many games as your favorite player. So I feel like overall, the trade isn't.
Excuse me, correction. LeBron is a great player, but right now my favorite player is Donovan Mitchell. I have to say it. Continue.
Yeah, yeah, of course, and mine's the MVP. But we got
all right there.
but we got the Lakers looking at a lot of different things, and the Mavericks getting a lot of scrutiny. Everyone bringing up the fact that GM Nico Harrison was the guy who botched Steph Curry for calling him Seth during their Nike meeting. the guy who the guy who let Brunson walk when he was trying to take a discount.
Yep, that's another thing that nobody's really talking about that too. Brunson to the Knicks.
And people think there was something going on there because Brunson's dad worked for the team, whatever. But regardless of the fact, when Brunson is willing to take that offer and you decline it, and then he becomes this player, you shouldn't even have the chance to make this trade because, frankly, you look desperate, and I think that also there's a lot of narratives around. Nico Harrison's wife was saying things about how much she was obsessed with Luca, and there's nothing coming out that makes it like it was a sound decision for Nico Harrison. There was nothing. I don't see a scenario where
Conditioning is what they're really pointing to, which is I don't want to even like remotely consider this as like the reason why they didn't want to pay Luka Doncic their supermax, but they were saying that they didn't feel comfortable because of his conditioning. That was one of the things.
okay, but
one of the couple of things.
You're definitely not wrong about that, but at the same time,
the only thing that I'm not wrong about there, I'm sorry to keep cutting you off. The only thing I'm not wrong about there is the fact that it was said. I think it's a ridiculous thing for them to even like bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just them trying to cover up something that was a decision they made, whether the public likes it or not. You have to own it, and in reality, too, the Luca just bought a $15 million house in Dallas this year, or last 12 months. So everyone saying he was not going to sign the extension is wrong, just based on that.
He
I
said
was
it
actually
too.
talking to Kraus about that. Kraus was saying that that's a forever home, and that's 100% true. No matter how much money you have, you don't put $15 million into a property to be there every so often. Like, that's where you intend to be forever. And I think Luka Doncic, yeah, maybe it works out well, but I think the Mavericks shot the rest of the league in the foot because you gave Luka Doncic LeBron to teach him how to, whether Luka's conditioning was whatever, or he had his stamina was low, or whatever issues he had with his conditioning. LeBron will show him the way if they're teammates. It's going to be like a second son on the team for him.
I mean, he could not. I don't think it even matters. The truth is, when you're dropping 28, 8, and 8, I don't care if you eat a cheeseburger every day like Nikola Jokic does. You look at
or if you
him,
eat on
perfect
the bench.
example. He's a 7-foot standing blob, but he is one of the best players in the NBA. And do you see the Denver Nuggets looking to trade him? No, because they're not like out of their minds, like Nico Harrison
funny.
is, because this doesn't make any remote sense. Now, Anthony Davis is a great player who's got more team control. Obviously, he's got a contract that's a little bit more guaranteed in terms of length remaining, but there's no reality where this makes sense. And I'm so sorry for Dallas Mavericks fans. If there's any Mavericks fans who are watching this, I truly, I can't say I feel your pain because I've never felt something like this before, but I empathize with you. Being a Cavs fan and watching my favorite player leave, obviously he did that on his own. It's heartbreaking, but this is one where your own team just kind of ripped him away from you guys without any true validation behind it. So I really am sorry for
And
all you
the sound
Dallas
bites are
fans.
saying and all the sound bites are saying that he wanted to be there, so that just hurts so much more as a fan.
It does. It does. He wanted to be there, and he was shocked to see this trade. LeBron didn't even know this trade was happening, which is also shocking. But it just goes to show you where these organizations are starting to head. They're not really considering what their players really want. They're more, which I don't mind, right? As an organization, you should know what's best for your team. But when you see some stuff like this happen, you really start questioning what these teams are actually looking to do here. But we'll wrap up. I mean, this was a crazy trade, and it's sending shock wavelengths throughout the whole entire league. We'll see how this ends up playing out for both teams as the season wraps up and we get into the playoffs, what this means for both the Mavericks and the Lakers. But another major trade that did just happen, De'Aaron Fox has been sent to the San Antonio Spurs to team up with Wembanyama. I'm botching up my words here. Oh, I'm on a slur. Wembanyama, which I think is a fantastic trade. In return, the Kings didn't really lose a lot of value. They got Zach LaVine from the Bulls in that 3-team trade. Another trade that just happened, Jonas Valanciunas was sent to the Kings also, so they are upgrading their big man. Great trades, I think, for all teams involved except for the Chicago Bulls. I really don't know what they were doing in that deal. They really didn't get much in return for Zach LaVine, who is a fantastic basketball player. Is he a superstar? No, but he's an all-star caliber player, and I think the Bulls got not so great end of that stick on that trade. So the Spurs look really good, though, with De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to see that. I really enjoy the way the Spurs been playing right now, and I love Fox's game, so it's going to be a team to watch for a long time. Fox asked to go there, so it was cool because once they knew that they were trading him, his preferred destination came out as there. And why wouldn't you want to play with Victor? But I think the move for Valanciunas shows they're going to try and put Sabonis in more of a Jokic role, running the team, running the offense, because he's got veterans on the outside that can slash, can make plays, can shoot. I don't think the Kings necessarily take so much of a step backwards, but I think that the upside in a playoff series, if they got in, having a guy like De'Aaron Fox, who's a consistent closer for them since the beginning of his career, I think that that's something that might hurt, but they have a lot of veteran experience still.
Well, so we knew that Foxy was not re-signing in Sacramento, so they were going to move on from him. But when you replace him with LaVine and Valanciunas, you think, all right, well, they still have DeMar DeRozan and Domantas Sabonis, and they got a good team going on over there. They did also send Kevin Huerter to Chicago, but it really means nothing. I think also for Fox, excuse me, he's making more money in this trade. Excuse me. Think about it. He was paying state income tax in the state of California. Now he's paying state income tax in the state of Texas, which is 0%, by the way. So huge savings for him there in the tax department. And I think that was a smart thing to do overall. He's going to go team up with one of the best young players in the NBA and see if he could lead the Spurs into the playoffs this season. Daniel Theis, congratulations to the Thunder. Not a big one, but bolster up the front court over there a little bit. Veteran big man. I mean, you call him a big man, but he's 6'7". He somehow still gets like 6-7 rebounds a game. I'm like, I don't even know how he does it, but I think that helps your team out for this season and this season alone, obviously. But it was a good little pickup for you guys.
You know what it reminds me of?
Yes. What does it remind you of?
Former Thunder great Mike Muscala.
I thought you were going to say the other one. Who was the other? Tall guy. He was on the Thunder for a while. He was drafted by the Thunder, or he might have been. Yeah, Collison. Nick Collison, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Nick Collison.
I don't know why he reminds me of him, even though Collison's much taller than him. But, Thunder are trending in the right direction with a move like this. They're obviously not needing to make anything major happen, but they're adding to where they feel like they could add a little bit more too. So great move for them. We're going to wrap up real quickly with just finalizing Jimmy Butler and Kevin Durant. This saga is quite interesting, what we're seeing happening here. Kevin Durant was ruled out today with quote-unquote ankle soreness. I know that he's obviously been on, health injury prone of late, but I think the Suns might be potentially moving him. Could be to Miami for a Jimmy Butler swap. Seems like the Warriors are out on Kevin Durant in its entirety. He's not looking to go there, but they are also interested in possibly Jimmy Butler, which is where I thought the Warriors would try to get into his Jimmy Butler. So a lot of crazy things. I know that we have a lot more to discuss in regards to how things went down between Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. We'll save that after the trade happens, if the trade happens. If not, we can get back into it. But what this could mean over the next, let's say, not even about 18 hours until trade deadline, right? Obviously, when this goes live on Friday, the trade deadline would have passed, and we'll know exactly who was and wasn't traded. But Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, go. What do you think?
Jimmy Butler, I think, will be gone. I think that I think that he'll get his wish to go to the Suns. I think that they'll find a way to make it work, find someone to take Bradley Beal. And Kevin Durant, I think he might be a part of that trade. Otherwise, I think there are a lot of teams that want him, but I don't know if he's gonna move because that's a very interesting scenario to me. I don't think he wants to leave. I don't really know if he even knows what he wants. But one more name I wanted to put out there instead of going further into Durant with useless rambling about not being sure, is I think sleeper move. The Bucks get under the second cap apron by acquiring Kyle Kuzma for Chris Middleton, and I think that results in them making a trade for Brandon Ingram.
I've heard rumors about that, where that swap could very well happen. I think it's a hard move considering that the relationship between Giannis and Middleton is really close. I mean, Middleton was Giannis's best man at his wedding. And Middleton is a great player too, obviously being with the franchise as long as he has been. I feel like there's so much value there that he wouldn't be giving to the Wizards. Obviously, Kyle Kuzma, he's not a player for me that really excites. Is a player that really gets you over the top. He's a stat patter. He'll get you 20 plus a game. But look at the team he's playing on. He's playing on one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NBA this year.
He'll be 12 to 14 if he's on a good team.
Right. And, give him 15, make it a round number. But, that's what roughly Middleton's giving you. Maybe he's giving you 12, 13. But with that experience, being with that organization, winning a championship with that organization, I just feel like, really, what are you gaining? What are you really gaining from getting Kyle Kuzma? A little bit more offense, maybe?
It's all about the money. I
don't see. But if that results in a Brandon Ingram move, it could be interesting because Brandon Ingram, I think, is a very nice and good player. But he's like the what do you call it, the knockoff version of Kevin Durant, almost, in my opinion.
Literally.
But still a really good player, like a 20-5 type of guy. Now, if you get him and Kyle Kuzma, and it results in you having to get rid of Chris Middleton, I think the Bucks could probably figure that part out because that probably makes a lot of sense. I think we'll see a lot more happening over the next 18 hours, like I said. And we'll give you guys a breakdown next week of finalized trades of everything that's happened, and you guys let us know what you guys want to see in regards to the NBA and anything else that you guys want to see. If it's not just NBA and MLB and NFL, anything it is, you guys comment away because you guys know how much I love being told I'm crazy. I was already told crazy once by Matt. I'm looking to be told I'm crazy again by somebody else. Matt, if you call me crazy again, that's totally fine too. But we love variety. We love everyone just calling me crazy. So if you're out there and you think, Harry, how could you say that the Mavericks lost that trade because Anthony Davis is great and Luka's I'd say, oh boy. I don't know if I'm the crazy one in this scenario, but we'll have to save that until someone actually makes that comment. So we want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and obviously supporting us and commenting away. We really appreciate it. We see everything you guys comment on our posts, everything from Instagram to X to all of the above. And Josh, I want you to, as usual, let everybody know where they can find us because there's a few different ones and I still can't remember them if you ask me to.
Absolutely. So we're on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And I know we had Kenzie here before, but also big shout out to Savannah for Tuesday. She will be turning 1. Had to give her a little love since Big Sis was on the show too. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Can't wait to celebrate the little one's birthday when I'm up in New York, which I will be up over the next few days. And let's not forget the best part of our show, our most memorable part of the show, I feel like at this point, is the Yogiisms. It was impossible to get a conversation going. Everybody was talking too much. What a smart man Yogi was. We miss him very much. Thank you
Elliot's one of
guys.
the better ones in the last few weeks.
I love it. I love it. I love it when you tell me which one. I want you to rank them. Actually, let's go forward quickly. Josh, you're going to rank the Yogiisms from a scale of 1 to 10 on how favorable they are. I might have to repeat some of them because I feel like the better ones were already done, but we'll go from there, and you're going to rate them from 1 to 10. How does that sound?
Put all the ones you've said in an email, and I'll put them in order.
Oh, boy. Here we go. More work for us to do. But thank you guys again for tuning in to Beyond the Score podcast. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week. And let's have a great Super Bowl this Sunday. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your Sundays. Have some wings. Have some beer. Whatever you guys like to do.
Dun, 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 dun.